Well, good afternoon, everybody. We are going to get going just in the interest of time on a Monday afternoon. No doubt everybody's got an inbox to work through. Just by way of housekeeping, you can ask questions or feed in comments through the chat and Q&A today, but also your respective chambers will be very pleased to have any input that you might want to feed in behind the scenes. We will be recording today's session, and that's just for any businesses that have not been able to engage. So they're just the points of housekeeping to make you aware of today. But thank you for joining. My name is Charlotte Horrobin. I'm one of the chief executives across the wider Chambers East collective. So that is a combination of 4 chambers representing Cambridgeshire, Norfolk, Suffolk and Essex. And we're really pleased today just to bring to the wider business community across the East of England why we think the East of England has got such a great opportunity, but also what we on your behalf and want to ensure that we secure our members' mandate on what we feel is really important come next Monday when we will have a new government in place. In terms of today's agenda, we will shortly be inviting Sarah Howard, who is the chair of the British Chambers of Commerce, to make an opening address. And then we will hand over to Paul Simon, Public Affairs and Strategic Communications Director, representing the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce. So just to kick off, Sarah, I appreciate that you have not been able to join us via video today, but I have no doubt that your audio will add plenty of value. Can we hand over to you to understand from a national perspective what the British Chambers of Commerce think are really important issues for the business community when the new government lands next Monday? Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Just to check, you can hear me, can't you?
We can, thank you.
Good. Okay. I'm sorry, it's user error. I can't get my video to work. I just want to say it is really great to see the Chambers in the East working so closely together. You probably don't appreciate, but everything that you do on a local basis does feed through to the national voice. And conversations we have in our area are then noted and fed into government via our manifesto that we've already given to them. So the team across the East has been working with the BCC on this, and this all goes into government. And I think it's really important to understand that we are a grassroots to government organisation, and everything you contribute here will be felt through and will contribute towards what goes on a national basis. I'd urge you to look at the National BCC Manifesto, which you should have all seen, and is on our website, and you'll see it very much reflects your views that you've been expressing in this manifesto. So I'm here to learn and to see what you've got to say. So thank you very much, Charlotte.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So it's now my great pleasure to introduce Paul. As I say, Paul is the Public Affairs and Strategic Communications Director who's based at the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce, but today will be representing the hard work of colleagues across the wider East of England and why we think the East of England is so strategically important for the new government coming into play. I think it's really amazing when we look at the political engagement all 4 chambers have had with the most senior politicians from across the country in the East of England. We really are packing a punch on behalf of the East. But Paul, perhaps you might just take us through some of the detail that we're really keen to, through both this session and externally, receive feedback from our members on.
Yes, I'll be delighted, Charlotte. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody. It's good to be part of what I think is quite the most significant launch of Eastern businesses for many decades. My colleague Connor is going to be very kindly doing the slide changes. I promised in homage to yesterday's football match, I will say next slide in Slovak, but I'm afraid in the time that I had, I wasn't able to learn that appropriately. So we'll be in English. I think what's absolutely central to this manifesto for Chambers East can be summed up by that very famous but apposite quote from Winston Churchill, which is, "Give us the tools and we'll finish the job." I think it's fair to say your chambers at a county level are punching well above their weight in terms of advocating and lobbying for the business community across all sectors and all sizes. But the ambition behind this is not just the sum of the parts, it's greater than the sum of the parts. And it's very much building on the regional collaboration, which I think has marked the chambers out in recent years. We collaborate already through a range of organisations, through Opportunity East, through the East of England APPG, and through the likes of Transport East. So although this is a transformatory manifesto based on a formal alliance and working together between the four chambers, we do have previous, and I think successful previous, in advocating across the Eastern region. So in short, our manifesto asks for the new Parliament for the next 5 years is very much summed up by the fact that without the East being fully invested in and fully engaged at the forefront of government initiatives, then sustainable national prosperity will always underachieve. We are the catalytic region that would help deliver the new administration's ambitions. Next slide, please, Connor. And we thought it was quite useful at this point just to take a step back and look at already what the East is doing, even with the decades-long headwinds of proportionately lower investment than in other regions, including many regions that are not net contributors to the Treasury as we are. I won't slavishly go through each of these points, but you can see them. I think the second one is absolutely revelatory, which is that the four counties combined in Chambers East have a gross domestic product of well over 100 billion, which actually makes it larger than at least 1/3, if not 40%, of all the world's nations. We are that important and have that level of heft. You will know, colleagues, the number of enormous international blue chips who are based here: Aviva, BT, Ford, Lotus, Arm, and AstraZeneca. We are very much hosts to economy changing and boosting transport, trade, and educational hubs. We are at the forefront of some of the absolutely key 21st century growth sectors, not least life sciences, clean energy, and artificial intelligence innovation. Our existing businesses of all sizes and sectors just don't produce wealth, that is important, but they actually produce social capital in employing local people, supporting their local supply chains and communities, embracing workforce diversity, and more generally boosting and supporting the social and civic ambitions of the communities of which we are very much part. And just one example there at the end is that we were already national leaders in terms of businesses reducing greenhouse emissions by nearly 60% over a 16-year period. So we're dynamic, we're market leaders, we have heft, and now we believe on the very cusp of a new administration, now is our time to get fair shares to deliver our true national role. Next slide, please, Con. And for each of these three, of which transport and infrastructure is the first, we're going to quickly consider the headwind and then run through just one or two manifesto asks that seek to address what holds us back. It'll be of absolutely no surprise, I would imagine, to anybody trading in the East of England that are very poor connectivity, whether it be road, rail, 5G, broadband, caused by systemic and decades-long underinvestment in the East, is a major headwind to our competitiveness and to our businesses' sustainable growth plans. We're putting that very much at the forefront of our ask to the new administration. And in particular, we are looking to be at the front of the queue for some absolutely vital capital infrastructure investments in terms of 5G and EV charging points, boosting rail, east-west connectivity as a whole, but specifically for this Parliament, urgent and much needed upgrades to the Ely and Hawley junctions. We mustn't forget roads. So many of our sort of key road infrastructure, the A10, the A47, the A14, the A12, the A120, remains locked at 20th century standards. And so we are looking for considerable and sustained government investment, addressing sort of key pinch points at junctions, and more obviously ensuring the smoother flow of goods and passengers throughout the regional roads network. We have a growing focus on utilities as well, and two of the key utilities in terms of water supply and electricity transmission are real headwinds now for many of our companies and organizations, and your chambers within their county jurisdictions have been working with water suppliers and with energy generators and transmission companies to ensure the vital needs of regional businesses are both understood and speedily addressed. But Chambers East and the initiative that sits behind that seeks to establish that very much on a more coherent regional perspective. So we are very much articulating, and will redouble over the next 5 years, our lobbying and advocacy to Whitehall and to Westminster for much needed improvements in these vital infrastructure networks. Next slide, please, Connor. But that's stuff. What about the people? Well, I think it's fair to say the East historically, with the exception of one or two hotspots, has struggled in terms of skill supply, in terms of labor supply, and many of those sort of skills gaps are endemic and are a significant headwind for business growth and wider prosperity. So we are looking, as part of our second manifesto ask, is to ensure that the East is at the forefront of skills expenditure from the King's Speech in mid-July throughout the rest of this particular Parliament. So we are looking for the continuation, the deepening, the widening of some of the employer-led skills initiatives from the last administration. We're looking for the apprenticeship levy to be transformed from a rather sluggish and bureaucratic process to one that is agile and flexible and allows organizations to work with their supply chains and work with their wider customer base to maximize relevant use of that levy. And we're looking for a UCAS type clearinghouse for apprenticeships. We fundamentally believe the focused importance of sustained investment in vocational training is a key catalyst for the East making its full national contributions. We will be urging government to address the systemic underfunding in further education in our region, not least in terms of teacher shortages, but also it's the challenges that our students and our apprentices face, particularly in our rural areas, where access to good infrastructure through transport or robust communications means that it's comparatively hard for many to fully realize their potential at an early stage in their careers. And we are advocates for an immigration policy, both over the short term but the longer term, ensures that we make maximum use of our domestic skills and aptitudes, but also in terms of attracting the brightest and the best across a range of market sectors, that our immigration policy facilitates and doesn't hamper long-term prosperity. Next slide, please, Connor. And then in terms of trade and the regional economy more specifically, it's quite clear that the comparatively slow rollout of new trade agreements has had an impact on many businesses' growth potential. Our local economies, in spite of hosting many nationally significant infrastructure projects, are not always realizing the benefits of hosting those projects. And therefore, we are looking to improve the readiness of both local businesses, but also major projects to break down the barriers that stop local businesses taking full advantage of those procurement opportunities. And I think we've had enough in terms of government after government tinkering with a clearly overly complex, perverse, and out of date business rate system. And we are clearly advocating for the next government to replace that within the term of the first Parliament with a tax that doesn't in any way undermine risk-taking and entrepreneurship, but actually rewards success, and therefore shifting the burden from an input tax to an output tax, such as a sales or turnover tax. So how will we do that? We will advocate as individual chambers, crucially as Chambers East, and as Sarah's indicated through the BCC, to encourage more trade agreements, but also to embed more international trade advisors across the East. We're very poorly served, very unfairly. So we want to see more expertise and international boots on the ground working with chambers and working with businesses to improve their readiness for entering into new overseas markets. We are looking to step up in a more coherent, less fragmented way, the promotion of the East as an integral entity within the UK in terms of being a desirable and readily available inward investment opportunity. We are looking to support across the whole region, but also in particular hotspots, local supply chain opportunities, so that we do fully take advantage of the very many nationally significant infrastructure projects taking place in the region. And as we said earlier, we're looking for a wholesale, not a tinkering reform, but a wholesale change over from business rates to an output tax such as sales and turnover. So in short, for trade and economy, we are global in our ambitions, but we're also looking for significant systemic pro-business changes locally and regionally as well.
Thank you, Paul, as eloquent as always, and an inspiring rally call, I think, on behalf of the East of England, as you say, a net contributor with global ambitions, but still some more work to be done to unlock and unleash those. We haven't, as of yet, had any questions or comments through the chat. So, Paul, we will take that your work and that of colleagues has been extremely stellar. But should any thoughts come to the minds of those who are attending or those who do choose to watch this retrospectively, then please do contact any of the chambers. There is no wrong door. We are here across the wider East of England to make sure that we can champion economic growth for the East. So thank you all for your time today. Thank you especially though to our contributors, Paul and to Sarah, and we look forward to working with a new government come next week. So thank you all.